So hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio and for my YouTube channel. And I'm super excited to be joined by a very talented actor in the form of Melissa Bergland. Thank you for joining me.
It is absolutely my pleasure. How are you today?
I'm really good, thank you. I mean, how is life for you? I mean, obviously this last year has been completely mad. So for you, how is life? Because you're in Los Angeles at the moment. So what's it like?
Um, it is surprisingly, if you hear little like going off in the background, that's my dog. She just likes to have a word every now and then. It's okay being under, it's a contentious issue here right now. The country's quite funny about, I won't say too much. Anyway, I feel quite safe in California. I think we're being led properly. I think we've been shut down appropriately. Perhaps even not enough. A lot of people are still filming projects. A lot of things are still going ahead. I don't know if they should have. But I feel okay. It does feel a little bit like a wasted year, but the only comfort to that is that everyone's experiencing the same thing. So just been catching up on things that I haven't seen, and I'm in LA, so the sun's always out, so I'm walking and just trying to focus on different areas of my life right here.
It must be quite difficult because, I mean, a lot of your family will be back home in Australia for you. So, I mean, that whole separation must be quite tough as well at the moment.
It is tough. Yeah, it really hit around Christmas time when I was talking to my mum, and we have a pact. My dad passed when I was 14, so he hasn't been, around for a while, but my mum and I always have a pact that no matter where I am in the world, I'll always see her for Christmas. And this year, the past Christmas was the first holiday season that I didn't. She either comes to me or I go to her, or we go somewhere together. And yeah, that kind of stung a little bit. So we set up the Zoom and had a champers at 10 in the morning with my family, and wasn't really the Merry Christmas that I had hoped for, but as I said, I'm not alone in my experience, and that's somewhat comforting.
I mean, one of the things that obviously a lot of people have been doing is learning new skills, finding themselves doing things they wouldn't normally be doing. So, I mean, have you found yourself doing anything new over this period?
Less so doing new things, more so revisiting things I used to do with great vigor. I used to play piano a lot, like practice for an hour every day before school. Like I got quite good, and I've let it fall by the wayside. And then when I moved here, I got a piano, and it holds photographs more than it is used. So, sorry to my neighbors, but I started right at the beginning of all my Suzuki books, and I started playing like from Twinkle Twinkle Little Star all the right way through. I've been doing that. Some friends and I filmed an entire feature film in isolation using Zoom, and that was interesting. I don't know if it's ever going to see the light of day. My friend who directed it was like, I had to edit so much out of it because it just looked, anyway, it might never see the light of day. And I've been doing some writing because I think that that's kind of a natural progression when you're in LA and there's not a lot of work happening. So you're like, oh, okay, well, if it's your drive in life to be a storyteller, you sort of naturally give writing a bit of a crack. Don't know if I'm any good at it, but we'll see.
I mean, that's the amazing thing with technology that we've got nowadays is things like Zoom didn't exist, a couple of years ago. So it's fact people are finding new ways of working, new ways of doing things. So I mean, have you found it been really helpful for you?
Well, the thing I missed most is, and this happened, before the pandemic, but when we have auditions, they'll require us to do a self-tape, which is fine, and it happens, and we used to do it before. But there was something about physically going onto a backlot and going into an audition in person that I really miss. And I had a better strike rate that way too. I don't know. There's something about a tape that's like, they're like, oh, she's put filters on it, she's only chosen the best tape. Well, yeah, I'm not going to choose the tape that I stuff it up, am I? But yeah, I miss human interaction, and I live alone. It's just me and my dog, so um, everything's kind of been digital and online. I actually think my eyesight has deteriorated somewhat because I've been staring at the medium screen all day, and then I reward myself by staring at the big screen while being distracted by the small screen. So it's just, yeah.
Now, obviously, for you, the big project that obviously kicked it off for you, which was a firm favourite of mine, was of course Winners and Losers. Such a great series, and that was your first proper TV role. Am I right?
Yes, yeah, it was my first professional job. If you don't count the custard commercial I did when I was 2.5, which not many people do. Yes, that was my first big thing, and it all happened very seamlessly and easily. And I am now coming to realize that that was really being struck by lightning. That was really lucky to like get an audition, get the pilot gets picked up, and we go for 5 seasons. Like that's really unheard of, especially in Australia at the moment. That you know, the government's doing some interesting things with the arts funding. So not a huge amount of Australian content being made. And you know, it'd be nice to see some more homegrown stuff on Australian TV screens, but I don't know. I said that from LA, so I'm not much better, I guess.
I mean, for anyone who didn't see the series, I mean, the basic outline of the show was 4 best friends who go to a school reunion. They don't have the best of time because they weren't the most popular at school, but the one thing they do have was each other, and they were thick as thieves. And then on the way home from the school reunion, they buy a lottery ticket, think nothing more of it, and then they all win. I think it was roughly about 2 million they got each. And then obviously their lives kind of unfolded, you know, disasters, tragedy, fun times as well. So, I mean, for you, you played the role of Jenny, who was such a lovable character. I mean, what were your memories of playing that role of playing Jenny?
It was interesting. I mean, Jenny from the get-go, from the first episode, was kind of divisive because she was the one who didn't put any money in, but they used her birthday. So it could be argued they wouldn't have won without her, but she didn't pay in. And then there's, of course, the whole conversation about, does she deserve any money? Was she was there? You know, 8 million split into 2 million much more easily between 4 people. It's the whole thing. I had a lot of fun. She seemed to be the most kind of like unhinged character of all of them, which I really liked. She was the youngest mentally and developmentally. I was the youngest as well. I was like, I think, how much younger than the other girls? I was 24 when we started playing a 27-year-old. And for some reason, just the writing, the hair, the makeup, everything kind of put it together so it was believable that, you know, I was playing a couple of years older than I was, also because Jenny is so innocent and childlike. It was really fun. And for me, it was some of my fondest memories are the big family scenes, because Jenny was the only, you know, character that had like a huge family. They were just chaotic, fun scenes. The dinner table, like, you know, every time I was sitting down at the dinner table, those scenes would take forever to shoot, but they were just hysterically funny and always a fun day. And so, yeah, lots of good memories. Lots of like freezing cold standing out on a dock at 6 a.m. in high heels also. But that's all fun too. I don't know. Some people are like, oh, I'm so tired. I worked like 16 hours today. And I'm like, we play dress up for a living. This is nothing but fun. I have nothing but eternal gratitude for this job. So yeah, I loved it.
And I mean, your mum was played by the fantastic Denise Scott, who, of course, she's actually in Australia. She's quite an established comedian, which I actually didn't know until I kind of did a bit of digging. But yeah. I mean, to have her as a mum, that must have been quite amazing to have her kind of like as a sort of leadership figure.
She's hysterical. She before Winners and Losers, she'd done mostly her own cabaret stuff, her own stand-up comedy. She is one of the funniest, wittiest, driest people I've ever met. She'd come out with some crackers and then call action, and I couldn't compose myself. I'd just be like, I'm sorry. Denise just said the funniest thing. I just need just 1 second to compose myself. But yeah, she's a big deal in Australia. And I remember I actually got the role. I think I was offered the role, and then they asked if I could please come back and read with the women that were auditioning to play my mum. And she was one of them. And I was just like, pick her. Because I knew who she was, and she'd been on my favorite television musical game show. It's like, you guys probably don't air it there, but you know who Adam Hills is, right? From The Last Leg.
Yeah.
So he used to host a show called Spicks and Specks, based on the Bee Gees song in Australia. Musical trivia, never mind Buzzcoxy. And she used to be a guest on that all the time. She's hysterical. And her son's a musician, so it was like, I don't know, he'd come on and play, and then she'd answer questions. It was just, I grew up watching that kind of show. So to work with her, also to work with Francis Greenslade, who is just one of the most iconic, brilliant theatre actors and screen actors, but he's done a lot of great theatre stuff in Australia. It was really lovely having their influence and getting to work with them so often. And it kind of, because it was my first job, it really, especially Francis, he was very much like, straighten up and fly right. This is how you behave on a set. And I was like very grateful for that.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I had as a guest on the show Damien Bodie, who of course played Jonathan. One of the, we chatted for like nearly an hour and a half. That he's such a great giving man with his time, but also he's really energetic and really good at his craft. So what was it like working with him?
I mean, we must know different Damiens. The Damien I know is so negative and depressive. No, he's an actual ray of sunlight. He is an actual ray of sunlight. He is so excited, so hyped, so just positive all the time. He is one of those people that if you're ever in a bad way and you just needed 5 minutes of somebody's time for an instant serotonin boost, you go hang out with Damien. He's lovely. He and I are still in contact. He's back and forth between LA and Oz. And as he probably told you, he's married, he's got a baby now, and he and Amy are doing really well and whatever. So, but they used to spend a bit of time in LA. So I would see them when they were here. But I don't know what their future plans are, but he is lovely. And every time I see him, there's like no time has passed. It was a really wonderful magnetic draw of the show to just really lovely people. There were very, very few instances where I was like, oh, I don't gel with that person, and but you get on with it and you do your job. But like the 4 girls and the 5 when Katie Lou Hicks, Catherine Hicks started, there was just no drama. It was nice. There was enough drama in the show. We just didn't need to be at each other's throats. But Damien, I was always so excited when I saw that I'd have scenes with him, because I knew that they were going to be funny and energetic, and you'd get in that like artistic sweet spot. He's great.
It must be amazing when you can do a job like that and you genuinely make lifelong friends, people who you actually gel with, who you're going to, keep in contact with. Because I imagine you do a lot of jobs and you meet people and you work with them, but then you might not see them again. So when you do those sorts of jobs where you do keep in contact and you do make lifelong friends, it must be such a joy.
It's honestly wonderful. I think there's something very special about the Aussie scene of actors as well. Like, it's a joke that we're the Gum Nut Mafia, because a lot of us move out to LA and then jobs and people are like, oh, here come the Gum Nut Mafia. But we do kind of know each other. People like, it's not possible for all of you to know each other. And I'm like, if we don't actually physically know each other, we haven't met in person, we definitely know who each other are. There's only a small sort of conglomerate of full-time working actors in Australia at any one time. So it kind of makes sense that we're aware of who each other are. There are a lot of people that I didn't meet until I moved out here, who had been on things. And I was like, if they didn't live in Melbourne and didn't come through Winners and Losers as a guestie, I never got to meet them. But I did a feature film shortly after I wrapped Winners and Losers Forever, before I moved over here. And one of my best friends I met on that. So, I seem to be sort of collecting folks as I do jobs, it's great. It's a great way to be.
Were you disappointed when Winners and Losers came to an end, or do you think it was the right time for it to finish?
I was sad that it was over, but I think it was the right time. And to be honest, we were all a little bit surprised. Not that it was ending, that it went for as long as it did. Not that we weren't loving it. We were having a great time. But it was kind of like, we were pretty sure once we got picked up for a 4th season that the 4th would be it. And it was kind of geared towards, you know, wrapping things up in a tight little bow by the 4th. Then we got picked up for a 5th and we were like, okay, that's great. I mean, we'll do it again. Sure. We'll see you all back next year. But I think it was kind of a pleasant surprise that we went as far as we did. And so at the end of 5th, it kind of felt natural. It felt normal. Some of us wanted to move overseas. Some of us wanted to go have babies. Like, there were things that felt the need to move on with it. It was kind of nicely bookended by the 2 celebrations at the high school. So it was like, yeah, it felt right.
Do you think if it ever came up, do you think you would ever do a reunion or a one-off episode in the future? Do you think that's something you'd ever want to do?
Oh, for sure. If it existed, I don't know. Excuse me, my tears just going down the wrong way. I don't know if, I mean, this sounds very trite, and I don't mean it to sound this way. And everyone talks about like the Sex and the City reboot. And we used to joke that we were just the Australian poor bogan version of Sex and the City. So we did not think we were Sex and the City. Let me get that straight. But it was just a little joke that we had, that we were like, yeah, we're Sex and the City. But it's strange if all of them don't come back, I think. Sometimes I'm like, just don't do it. Just don't do it. If it's not the whole team, just don't do it. But also, that's just me, in my opinion, on a show that I was on. Can't say that for any other show. Sometimes it is quite successfully pulled off. But yes, to answer your question, if they were like, we're going to do, you know, like a feature-length episode special, do you want to come back? Then absolutely.
Now, going forward, is there a dream role, something you would love to play in the future that you haven't had the chance to yet?
A crazy Eileen Warner's-esque manic serial killer, or some Uma Thurman type role in a Tarantino production. Just something I would love just to see. In all seriousness, I mean, I know that there's a lot of plus size actresses that are in comedy that do action. I want to see a fat bitch in a cat suit and a sword. Like, and without a hint of irony. No comedy. I want them to be an action thriller. I want it to be a plus size woman. I don't want to hear anything about us not being fit or flexible or being able to run. Like, that would be sick. I would love that. Put me up at high wires, teach me to do stunt fighting. I'd love that.
That would be amazing. And is there someone you would love to work with going forward?
Yeah, Edgar Wright. Do you know him?
Yeah.
You know him personally?
No, don't know him personally. No, I haven't. No.
But all you Brits know each other, right? That's kind of what I get in Australia. They're like, yeah, you all know each other. Edgar Wright, definitely, is one of them. Emerald Fennell. Like the Killing Eve kind of thing, I think is just so cool. It's one of my favorite shows. So Emerald Fennell. Who else? Oh, a bunch of people. Too many to name. Here's the other thing. I'm saying Edgar Wright and Emerald Fennell because I think they're quite safe and they're not going to become problematic in 5 years' time. Some of the people that I very loudly championed years ago, and I was like, oh, I love their work. They're famous. They're amazing. I think they're just fabulous. And now people are like, oh, they're an awful human and they have many allegations against them. And I'm like, oh, another one bites the dust. That's sad. Okay. All right. Can't stand them anymore. Never mind.
Now, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. But before we go, is there any messages you'd like to give to any of the patients who are listening in hospital or anyone who watches this online?
It's been bugger of a year for all of us. Our our healthcare workers and our essential service workers are angels on earth, and they deserve all the support and love and thanks and gratitude. And despite many of the governments of the world not taking this shit seriously, it's been up to us, the people, to look out for each other. And we're all doing the best we can. And for those who are in hospital and recovering, fast recovery. Don't feel like life is passing you by. We're not doing anything. If you're stuck in a hospital bed, I promise you, nothing interesting is happening. Nothing is going on. I'm watching all the Marvel films at the moment. You could probably do that as well if you wanted to come do a Marvel marathon with me, whatever. But yeah, speedy recovery. Get well soon. And we're all here waiting for you on the outside once we've all got our jabs and we're all out of this pickle.
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's been an absolute pleasure. Of course, keep safe, and hopefully one day we'll speak again soon.
Anytime. Loved it.